I am not gay. I have relationships with women and sex with men.
And I got news for you. That means you're gay.
Hi, and welcome back to I Think You Should Know This. Today, I think we have a pretty fun episode in store for us, at least compared to what we have been doing. Today, I'm going to be talking about the media phenomenon that is Copaganda. We'll go over what Copaganda is if you're unfamiliar. I'll talk a little bit about how deeply harmful I think it is, especially when we think about those who are reporting gender-based violence to the police. And then I'll be reacting to a few clips from the absolute juggernaut of Copaganda, which is Law and Order SVU. If you're interested in current events, especially those related to policing, please go ahead and subscribe to not miss my next video. First things first, I want to say, clearly from the fact that I could sing the Law and Order SVU theme song from off the top of my head, I too have watched a lot of crime procedural dramas. If you like those types of shows, I'm not making this video to try to convince you to stop watching them. Why I am making this video is to make sure you're aware that these shows aren't a fair representation of policing. So, what is Copaganda? Well, according to Google, Copaganda is media or narratives that are designed to influence public opinion about police, often by portraying them in a positive light and downplaying or ignoring instances of misconduct, violence, or systemic issues. Fictional depictions of police, especially in police procedurals and legal dramas, have been criticized for portraying police as infallible heroes and reinforcing misconceptions about crime rates, minority groups, and police misconduct. In other words, Copaganda is any type of media that portrays cops as overly kind, compassionate, sensitive, and respectful human beings, going above and beyond to protect their community. They are always fighting tooth and nail to do the right thing. And they're driven by a real sense of justice, and they're always portrayed without any biases or prejudices, and they're always depicted as the smartest person in the room who is just so deeply curious about getting to the bottom of crime in their community. And I like to think if you're watching a video on my channel, you already know this, but that's not true. And I know somebody's gonna be like, well, I know one cop that's really nice to me, and cool. I'm talking about thousands of episodes through the history of time that depict police in a way that is empirically false. And we can think of so many television shows alone that can be considered Copaganda. I wonder how many I can think of off the top of my head. Well, you got Law and Order, and then I'm pretty sure there was a different Law and Order in the late 90s, and then Law and Order SVU, and then there's Law and Order Criminal Intent. There's Law and Order Organized Crime. How many Law and Orders do they need? It's already been on for 1,000,000 years. Then there are, of course, all of the NCISs and CSIs, and if I'm being honest, I've never seen any of those shows, so I don't really know how many there are, but there's enough. I'm pretty sure Hawaii Five-0 is a cop show, Blue Bloods, Chicago PD. Then there are like the 911s that I think are like other first responders as well, but definitely have cops. Oh my God, I almost forgot about Criminal Minds. Criminal Minds was my favorite show when I was a teenager, before I got like radicalized. And of course, there are so many mini-series these days where it's just like a detective who's come back to their hometown. And of course, how positive they might depict law enforcement can range, but at the end of all of them, the cop has always done the right thing. They always save the day. Not to go on a complete other side tangent, but I think Copaganda is particularly popular amongst white women, because I think as women, oftentimes women feel the desire to be protected for good reason. But being white means that they often are not as heavily policed as Black communities, which means the fantasy of a really passionate, committed, dedicated police force who are all so occupied with making sure you're safe is a fantasy that makes white women feel really good. Because white communities are so much less policed than Black communities, I think in that distance, white women can watch these shows and be like, maybe cops really do act like this in real life. They don't. One of the reasons why shows like Law and Order SVU piss me off so much is because that is not an accurate depiction of how the police actually speak to those who have been sexually assaulted. Everybody on Law and Order SVU, especially Olivia Benson, is meant to be depicted as the epitome of being trauma-informed and respectful and sensitive and compassionate. That's not what we're dealing with in real life. More than half of survivors who were reporting gender-based violence to the police say that they had a negative experience with law enforcement. And over 90% of those who have not reported gender-based violence to the police say that the reason they didn't was because they were afraid of the police officer's reaction. That's the reality of how police officers are treating people who have been sexually assaulted. And I would be here quite literally all day if I went through all of the stories, but there are so many that you can find in the news and on the internet of a woman going to a police precinct to report a sexual assault and being harassed, abused, neglected, manipulated, if not arrested herself. The world that Law & Order SVU has created in terms of how they treat survivors of sexual assault doesn't exist in real life. And for the record, it doesn't even exist in real life for the people who are on Law & Order SVU. They're actors. For the real life Special Victims Unit, they are actually under federal investigation for gender biased policing. In 2022, it was announced that the Justice Department was investigating the NYPD's Special Victims Division, which is considered to be like the real life Law & Order SVU. Based on the information provided to the Justice Department, we find significant justification to investigate whether the NYPD's Special Victims Division engages in a pattern or practice of gender-biased policing. The Justice Department alleges that they are failing to conduct basic investigative steps and shame and abuse survivors and re-traumatize them during investigations. That's the real SVU. And they're still under investigation. The Justice Department still hasn't released a full report on this. A more accurate depiction of how the police treat women who are reporting violence against them is the story of Lauren McCluskey. In 2018, Lauren was a student at the University of Utah and was being harassed and extorted by her ex-boyfriend. He had been stalking her for months and saying that if she did not pay him, he was going to post explicit images of her online. Lauren went to the University of Utah's police precinct to get help repeatedly, begging them for weeks to do anything to protect her. And they didn't. They didn't do anything. Lauren was shot dead on October 22nd in 2018 by that ex-boyfriend. And to make an already devastating situation somehow even worse, the police officer tasked with helping Lauren was caught showing those explicit images of her to his police colleagues. Even on the day she was murdered, he was still showing his fellow police officers the explicit images that she was afraid would ever get posted online. That officer was fortunately fired. I do believe that he tried to file a wrongful termination lawsuit against the University of Utah, but I do believe that a judge tossed the case. I think about Lauren all the time and wonder, had the police done anything to help her, if she would still be alive today. I know I really brought down the vibe there for a second, but I am going to end with some Law & Order clips. For the record, I have not watched any of these ahead of time. However, of course, I've seen a Law & Order SVU ep or two. And I probably won't do a ton just because there are so many clips on the internet and it's hard to find exactly what I want. But I think I'm going to go for some interrogation clips first.
So what's this conspiracy?
Will Arnett is so funny.
Facilitating the rape of children in foreign countries. There's no state law against that.
Federal law. We turn
Will Arnett is so funny.
our tape over to the U.S. attorney. You're toast.
Federal statutes require proof of a sex act. That means they need a victim. Where are they going to find one?
No wonder this guy doesn't need a lawyer. He's got the law memorized with all his other NAMBLA buddies.
Nambla. Not one of those.
Does he act like that?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think I am some dumb cop?
I'm nothing.
Elliot, smarter than me?
I need a doctor.
I'm gonna need a morgue, pal.
It's not worth
Get
it.
off me. You are nothing but a low-life pimp.
Can't do
who
that.
sells children. You said Brett Jansen on a sex tour. Him and a friend made a video.
Big time can't do any of that. That's my thing. The amount of just like casual police brutality in Law & Order SVU is just like completely seen as tolerated and accepted. I mean, technically it is in real life law enforcement, but it's like seen as just a part of doing the job and getting justice because all of these guys are bad people. And I don't think real life policing is that cut and dry for about a million reasons.
How many do you book?
Couple dozen.
Yeah?
Over the years.
Right, just a couple dozen.
I swear I'm not one of them. I was just in it for the money.
Which your feds are gonna take away from you while you're sitting on death row for slicing up Brett Jansen.
What?
I had nothing to do with it.
That's funny because somebody did to him exactly what he joked about doing to you.
That rat bastard.
You gotta be more specific. There's a lot of them running around in this case.
Lynch. I told him about Jansen's joke that he was gonna cut my balls off. He's using it to set me up.
Why would he want to kill Jansen?
Because Lynch handpicked Jose for Jansen. Then Jansen called Lynch, said he wanted his money.
I'm sorry, I'm just so unable to take Will Arnett seriously as this character. Yeah, just I guess another example of Elliot Stabler tossing people around that he deaf in real life couldn't do. Benson beats up a pervert during questioning. Let's see her toss some punches.
Chains?
You like your women at knife point? Those big boys in prison are gonna love your prissy pervert ass up there, huh?
No, I get it. I get it.
What a line.
Now, you got a thing for perverts. Is that why you do sex crimes? Someone diddle you when you were a kid?
When did we come up with diddle? Like, can we just retire the phrase diddle?
Little girl.
You bastard, tell me you raped her.
You raped them, didn't you? Huh? Right? You raped them, right? Yes, it matter.
Please, get it, yeah.
Whoa. Big time can't do any of that. And the thing is like, you do that, case gets tossed. Like, I mean, without a lawyer, probably anything that he said is already inadmissible. But at the same time, you beat the shit out of him. I don't care if you hate him and think he's a horrible guy. Immediately, that case gets tossed.
What the hell is your problem?
Got a confession, didn't we?
And what part of that do you think is going to stand up in court? A 5-year-old could have done a better job.
Then go hire one.
Exactly.
Had it with your
Exactly.
We are not finished yet.
You took your hands off me.
Gagged. Wait. The way that she delivered that line kills me. You get your hands off me. Mariska Hargitay, you've done it again.
She flinches when he comes toward her, the way she has fear in her eye when he speaks, the way she wants to jump out of
Nice
his skin,
old
sort of the way
lady.
you are right now.
Well, of course I'm scared.
I love when there's just a nice old lady with a random transatlantic accent. Why does she speak that way? Who knows?
Lenny? In here, dear.
Oh my god. I love her.
No. Please, Mia. Talk to her. I have to go. Mia,
Clay Duvall, talk to her.
Listen to me. Please.
it's okay, Mia.
What are you?
look.
Oh. Okay. Hang on.
Mia, look what he did to you.
I would like just to say for a second that at no part in trauma-informed care, at least not the kind that I have been trained in as a practicing social worker, have I ever been told, you know what? Make your client stare at her bruises in the mirror. Never in a million fucking years would I do that.
He always says he's sorry. He brings me flowers. He promises he'll never hurt you again until he does. He wanted to.
I am kind of obsessed with her transatlantic accent, I'm not gonna lie.
Mia came to me, recanted the charges against my client. On video.
Bert must have gotten to her.
No, her guilty conscience did. Let's go play this for Grail. I can drop the charges.
I'm talking to Mia first. Maybe the shelter wasn't the best way to go, but I know that there are other ways that we can keep you safe.
I want to be home with my husband.
Satisfied?
So much for helping Mia.
Look, she wasn't ready to leave her husband. I pushed her. It was my fault.
Oh, spare me the self-pity.
Lee, I know that you care about Mia's safety.
Well, what's the use? She doesn't care.
Where does that staircase lead?
It's the old servants' steps. When they converted the house into apartments, they left it in. We share the laundry.
And Olivia Benson is going to go break into this apartment to try to help this woman leave her fiance again. And as frustrating it may be when someone is not ready to leave the person that is harming them, this happens all the time and for really understandable reasons. One of the things that really bothers me about how they depict Olivia Benson on this show is that she often just takes the place of who is controlling the woman who's been harmed. She is often being like, well, you have to report, or what are you going to do if he does it again? Or you have to leave, and this is the right thing to do. And she's given kind of a similar dogmatic power over the woman she's trying to help. And she doesn't really take no for an answer. And in real life, when you actually work with people who are experiencing violence, not as an actor depicted on a show, in reality, Not being ready or wanting to, for whatever reason, leave somebody who's harming you happens all the time. It can be hard work and even frustrating work, but there are still a lot of ways to exercise a lot of understanding and compassion without then just telling this person what to do. With that being said, I'm going to wrap this video up here. I wanted to put out something that was maybe a little bit more lighthearted, but I'm not sure I ended up actually achieving that. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments about Copaganda or any of the other videos I've put out, please leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.